There's two classic horror films called Nosferatu. Now, does Robert Eggers' 2024 Nosferatu deserve to join their ranks? Find out next. Hello and welcome to another episode of Siblings on the Spectrum. I'm Cameron,
And I'm Key.
and today we're looking at Robert Eggers' dream project, his 2024 film, Nosferatu. So,
I,
as I mentioned, the film is directed by Robert Eggers. Let's just go through who's in the film. Directed by Robert Eggers, it stars Lily Rose Depp, daughter of Johnny Depp, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Oh, I can't forget William Defoe. We'll talk about his performance in this. Now, let's do a quick little summary of the film. So, as the story goes, in Weisburg, Germany, 1838, settled by a superior with the urgent task of sealing a land deal, newlywed estate agent Thomas Hutter reluctantly abandons his worried wife, Ellen, in hopes of securing his position in the firm. However, the mesmerizing sight of lustrous gold is a deadly trap as the ambitious young realtor arrives at the mysterious Count Orlok's isolated castle in the Carpathian Alps. The ghastly embodiment of pure horror begins to haunt Ellen's unspoken nocturnal imaginings. With the light succumbing to darkness, who can ease the suffocating stranglehold of ancient evil? After all, few have gazed into the abyss and lived to tell the tale. Can willing sacrifice rid Weisberg of the Nosferatu?
Nosferatu, is that how you say it? I
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu. I've got my garlic. I have a cross. I'm wearing a cross. I don't know if you're well prepared, Cameron. I don't
No,
really.
sorry.
I have a wooden spoon somewhere, but I don't have a steak. Anyway, um, I was really excited for this movie when it came out because I love all things Dracula and vampire related. Um, and I was excited to see Nosferatu because I'd never seen the first movie, Nosferatu 1. Ha ha ha. But I don't know if there'll be a sequel, a Nosferatu 3, because yeah, we need to talk about this movie. It was I don't need to see it again. I'll just say it that way.
Okay. Well, should we start off with what we liked about the film
Yeah, yeah.
on a positive?
Yeah,
So,
it was very atmospheric. That was one thing that I noticed immediately, and I really loved some of the geographical places that they were shooting in. That was very fascinating as well.
we used to live there.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
really.
shot in Czech Republic.
Yeah, I don't remember where I saw they had a canal going in. I'm curious what city that was, but there was a canal outside the house before they departed when they were supposedly in Germany. But yeah, they had that really nice bohemian look. They mentioned Bohemia, the you know Count Orlok was up in the Bohemian Mountains, and then they hid the map so we couldn't see exactly where he was.
Yeah, I also liked, first of all, the cinematography was very much talked about, and I agree it's excellent. I'm a photographer myself, so I'm keen on that. I like the muted tones, slightly antiquated look. I thought it made me actually really focus on the images, which was really great because they weren't too bright. I had to sort of let my eyes dig into them a little more. So it did make me concentrate a bit more on the visuals. Costumes were excellent. And I mean, deservedly, it was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, but they're all due to the art direction, the cinematography, and the costumes and makeup, which deservedly so. Yeah,
Mhm.
I would say all those things were the positives with this film. I would say that I think the first 20 minutes, first of all, I'm probably overly familiar with the story,
Yeah.
having seen it so often, having seen the 1922 Nosferatu, and also the 1979 Nosferatu, the vampire, and of course, all the Dracula vampire films based on Bram Stoker's novel. I've seen so many that I'm very familiar with the story. But the first 20 minutes, as it led me into the story, Um, I didn't mind the first 20 minutes. I thought it was effective, leading me into the story, getting things going, building atmosphere, and not quite showing Count Orlok yet, hiding, keeping that very restrained. Um, but the movie's not 20 minutes long.
It's, I
uh,
wish I wish
so,
it was 20 minutes long. I also enjoyed the first 20 minutes. I found the language was actually really interesting. They did a lot of foreshadowing, like talking about blood, too much blood. Like I was gonna say Mina, but her name is not Mina in the film. Um I forget they changed some of the names, which I'm not really
yeah,
sure why they did that. They went for that. I got a cast list. So Ellen Hutter. I thought she was Mina Harker in the original Dracula
yes,
book.
that's true.
Um, so Ellen, had they did a lot of foreshadowing with her, like way too much blood, and needs to be a lot of talking about tying her and binding her and being restricted, and that she was a creature of the air and a sliff. They called her a sliff and changeling girl. So I thought they did some good building, and then it didn't really go anywhere. So that brings us to what's not to like, which will probably be the rest of our review.
Yeah, this is unfortunate because I was looking forward to it. Robert Eggers, I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of his. I have seen all his other films. His first film, The Witch, I liked, but I found it similar to other horror films I've seen because I've seen so many. So I thought it was a bit overrated. I find him in particular to be a bit overrated as a director. But I did really like The Lighthouse. I think that's his strongest work. The Norseman, I didn't like as much. It was, but anyway, let's get to Nosferatu. Yeah, so I was looking forward to this because apparently it's his passion project. He wanted to make this after he made The Witch, but it's taken him until now to bring it together. So if it really is his passion project, I don't know why it came off this way.
Hmm.
Because I think if I had to choose one word to describe this movie, it would be perfunctory.
Yeah.
Because he does the very basics here. It's very episodic. The scenes seem rushed and sometimes unintentionally funny. And sometimes it's a combination of the performances and I think the direction. I don't think he shot enough coverage in some scenes. I could tell it just seemed rushed to me, and I
Hmm.
don't think he did enough takes with the actors because there was at least three scenes I can think of, maybe four, where the actors made me chuckle unintentionally, and it took me out of the movie. So, and yes, I did because I'd seen this story before. Um, this particular rendition, unlike the original Nosferatu from 1922 or Werner Herzog's fantastic Nosferatu the Vampire, this movie didn't give me anything to think about. It didn't linger in my mind. It didn't creep me out. It didn't scare me. In
Yeah.
fact, it did bore me. I started to get bored just before the halfway point. I started to check the time, and because it just seemed like perfunctory. I don't know how else to put it. It just seemed very, like I said, it just seemed like he was going through the motions trying to get to the end really quickly. And
Yeah.
all along I was thinking, I was looking for more captivating visuals or let him linger on a scene. Please just linger on a scene for a second. But I found it moved too fast towards its ending. It seemed to be in a rush to end. So do you want to interject? I've said quite a bit.
Yeah, I felt like I noticed that there was beginning to be a problem with where the director was taking me. There was a scene where he did this close up of Ellen's hair and all her coils, and it went really deep into her hair. And I was like, what is he going to connect this to? And he actually didn't connect it to anything. And then the next scene was just her in her bedroom. And yeah, she was cutting off a lock of her hair, but I was expecting there to be some thematic echo or like some other coils, or like this is like I'm going into her mind, and I was just like, this that was just a close up of her hair. And I started thinking, what I kept expecting to be led somewhere beautiful or something to be extended, and it wasn't. It was cut short. And when William Dafoe appeared, I was like, oh, thank God, William Dafoe. And then within about 5 minutes, I was like, oh no, William Dafoe. Like, he basically relied on a monocle, a fez, and a really long pipe. And I died laughing at the I think there was an autopsy scene, and
Yes.
he had this huge pipe,
And
you know,
he was
way
looking at
too
the
long,
body.
way
Yes.
too long. And one key thing that vampire movies has is that there's a seduction. Um, Dracula is horrible. Nosferatu is horrible, but there's an attraction there. People open their doors to him. And like that whole thing where he's not allowed to come in unless he's invited. I don't know if that played, I don't think that was in this movie, but the whole idea that there is like sort of a sexual seduction there. And you can understand why. And also in the original Nosferatu, I felt a lot of sympathy for the vampire creature because it was so alone and horrible, and I felt no sympathy. There was no attraction. He wasn't attractive. And he wasn't repulsive enough to be interesting either. It was very like something I could buy at Walmart to put on my front lawn, like the creature on Halloween. Um, and I kept actually, yeah, there was an early, I kept seeing earlier versions of Dracula, and this movie was just reminding me of better versions of this movie. So it was kind of like a nostalgia of, I even thought of Dracula dead and loving it. So how bad does a movie have to be to make me think of that?
Yeah. Well, jumping off on something you said, that's interesting. You mentioned the scene with the hair because that's symbolic of the whole movie. It's very superficial. You think it's about to go deep, it could, and it doesn't. It just
Yeah.
leaves things hanging. So I found the movie to be very superficial. It gave me nothing to think about, nothing to remember.
Mm.
And much has been said about Nosferatu's makeup in this. Um, I'm sorry, it took me out of the movie quite often because I kept thinking he looked like other characters, including Jim Carrey as Lemony Snicket.
Oh
Uh,
my God. I got the
did you
Grinch.
see that though? Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. And when they were showing his hands, that's like a
Yeah.
classic. Using the shadow was a classic thing that was in the original.
Yeah.
Um, they didn't do a good job of it, and his hands looked like the Grinch when he was stealing the Christmas bulbs from little Cindy Lou at Christmas. I think I sent you the clip. Just you probably
Oh,
why you got a Grinch clip. Um, just I was like, oh God, this isn't good that I'm thinking of the Grinch. I actually started scrolling Dracula Dead and loving it because Renfield is far funnier and more interesting in that one. I thought the character of Renfield, I think his name was Locke in this one, or Knock. It was Knock. It was Lockhart and Knock. I thought he was so poorly done. No
right.
imagination whatsoever. It looked like he bit the ass off of the pigeon instead of the neck for some reason to me, and I started laughing at that point. Um, I just thought there was so much potential missed there. And then one thing that really interested me is usually when I watch Dracula and vampire movies, there's a sexual component between Dracula and the women. And I thought there was a lost opportunity in this film for when the main male character was in the castle with Lockhart, and there was like these nude scenes and stuff, and I was like, why didn't they? And there's actually a scene where he's on the vampire's on top of him, like feeding off of him and biting it around his heart and his nipple, and I'm like, they could have made something really interesting and different and homoerotic about this, but they just made it boring. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot of dicks in this movie that we saw for no reason whatsoever. It
Yeah,
wasn't, I don't know.
perfunctory. It's
Yes.
perfunctory. It
Yeah.
is boring. It's very flat. It had me really wondering about the director. Like I started to think, well, I've seen quite a few of his movies. And I've only been impressed with one of them, but a lot of people seem to really, oh, I like Robert Eggers, but which is fine, to each their own. But what is his style? Like I started thinking, really, what is his? Because he's this new hot director, right? He's much talked about. I wonder if he has a style. Maybe that's something people can leave a comment on below. If I'm sure we'll get some interesting comments on this because I don't know if everyone would agree with this on our evaluation of the movie,
Did
but
you
it's
notice
really
like a complete lack of seduction or even romance, like
it didn't make
sexuality?
sense. He's visiting her historically through her dreams or something. That was insinuated. Their connection was nebulous. Like yeah, it wasn't, you're right, there wasn't the eroticism and the magnetism
Yeah,
or
and that's a
the
that's a
horror
major
and disgust of a vampire.
yeah, that's a major
None of it was explored.
I think a major part of Dracula's power is that he's seductive and you want him and then you don't. You're repulsed and attracted simultaneously, and there's that tension there that keeps you interested. And when I actually looked at the cast of characters and who played Nosferatu, I didn't even recognize who it was. I didn't know any of these actors other than William Dafoe, and I don't think anyone distinguished themselves whatsoever.
Hmm.
And I also found that Nosferatu's speaking voice was annoying and horrible to listen to, way overdone with his accent. And I did. It occurred to me like, is it lazy or is it xenophobic to use a really strange Slavic Eastern European accent to imply being evil? And like this way of talking like this, it was just nuts. I it was lazy. Anyway,
Yeah. Well,
there was
Bill
no like.
Skarsgård played Nosferatu, and everyone made a big fuss because, of course, he played much better at the role. He played the clown in It, um,
Um,
which was a much better role for him. He did a great job of that. But
mm,
I think they thought that had some cachet. They're just going to take a bunch of makeup on him, and no, it didn't work. The Nosferatu, yeah, it wasn't scary. It wasn't memorable. Like if I look at even how many notes I wrote on this movie, I don't know if you can see that. It's just one
yeah,
page. Yeah,
disappointing.
yeah, disappointing is another key word. I was really disappointed with this because I'm a fan. It doesn't come anywhere near the original 1922 Nosferatu, and it certainly doesn't come anywhere near Nosferatu the Vampire, Werner Herzog's classic 1979 remake of the same material. So, yeah, that's disappointing is a key word here. Like weirdly, overall, most critics like this film, but I find I think it's overrated. I think it's just how do you feel? Is it overrated?
Yeah, I just thought it seemed like a very expensive made for TV movie that made me think of other movies. And I really missed Winona Ryder as Mina Harker. I just kept thinking of her,
Yeah.
which is maybe weird because it isn't that's Lily Rose. Is it Lily Rose Depp who played that character who
Johnny Depp's daughter, yes.
yeah, yeah. And I know that anyway, they dated Winona and Johnny Depp were dating, but I missed that movie. Like Stoker's Dracula movie. Like that movie was kind of cheesy and over the top and very sexy. But I just kept thinking of it and wishing I was watching that one instead. And like I said, if you're thinking about Dracula Dead and loving it and The Grinch, and I also thought of there was a exorcism kind of like a scene where they do the
Right.
back bend. I'm like, that's been done to death. That whole
Yeah.
like weird
That
that women do when they get possessed.
I
Um,
actually I that made me chuckle. There was something in the performances there in that scene. It just seemed rushed. I chuckled. There was, like I said, I think there was four scenes where it just the tone was off. I chuckled. So to me, I blame the director. I don't know, as an actor, maybe I don't know if you'd blame the actors or not, but I don't think the director did enough takes. This movie just seemed rushed to me.
yeah, I feel like I was wondering if he was trying to be really politically correct with the treatment of women too, and that's why there was nothing sexy whatsoever. But then he showed so much like a lot of naked males and things, but he wasn't able to bring anything erotic there either. Like he didn't know what to do with it. So I was like, why did he like take all of the human lifeblood out of the beating hearts of humans? Like that's the whole point. That's what Dracula wants is, your lifeblood and your lust and your passion. Like I'm not sure like why he watered all this down. Like was he trying to do like a PC version or a woke version of the vampire story? Like I was super excited because I've been wanting to see I love the original. It terrified me. They showed it to me in the school library at Halloween, And I actually went out into a yard sale and got a cross when I was just like, I think I was 7 years old. And our mother took it away from me because she said we weren't Catholic. And I was so distressed because I was like, how am I going to get protection at night from the vampires? Like
Yeah.
that movie was hugely influential. And so I was looking forward to seeing this ugly, awful character with the claws and the strange teeth. It wasn't well done.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was a total disappointment.
Yeah, the first time I saw the original Nosferatu, the footages, do you remember that show in the 70s Leonard Nimoy hosted In Search of? They
Yeah.
did an episode on vampires and they showed scenes, just brief scenes from Nosferatu. And even though it was silent, black and white, it scared the living daylights out of me as a kid in the 70s. It just
Yeah.
looked so creepy. And to this day, it still looks creepy.
Hmm.
So, I mean, those original two Nosferatus, meaning the 1922 and the 1979, are both classics. Like, they both have imagery that has stuck with me for decades,
Yeah.
probably stay with me the rest of my life. And they were genuinely had a magnetic slash horrific lead in the
Hmm.
role. So, but this movie unfortunately comes nowhere close to that. So, yeah, I mean, he once again, Robert Eggers claims this was a passion project, but I don't see much passion. There's not much blood in this running through the veins of this Nosferatu, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about neurodivergent aspects because like I noticed the queer aspects or the missed potential there in this movie. Because I think it would have been really fun if the vampire had a little bit of fun with Ellen's husband as well. Um, did you notice anything
So it didn't connect to me intellectually. It didn't connect to me on a deep level. Like I said, it was superficial. It didn't give me anything to think about. Um, the story I'd seen and heard the story before. It didn't do anything new with it visually. So it was just really disappointing, a very flat experience,
hmm.
which I wasn't expecting at all. So no, as a neurodivergent person, I could not, it didn't move me in a deep way at all.
Yeah, I think that it was actually it was a neurotypical experience, like very surface level. I saw some hints in how Ellen seemed to have extrasensory powers and things bothered her, and she was sensitive in the beginning. And they were like, well, she can't be running the house with her sensitivities and things. And so they were making accommodations for her, and there was some hints around like mental health treatment, trying to modernize that, and the whole like not getting the right diagnosis, and actually these people, there's nothing wrong with them, they're actually right, what they're experiencing is right. I saw some hints of that in the beginnings, like some almost Cassandra like elements, like I'm telling you something bad's going to happen, like Ellen had these premonitions and was able to see reality in a way that was real, and they thought it was fake. So I saw that a little bit, but it just wasn't delved into at all. I mean, and they tried to show progressive mental health care for the Renfield or Knock character. His name was Knock in this movie. But the sympathetic psychiatrist or whatever his title was, the doctor at that time, he was just there to get attacked and eaten. It was ridiculous. Like he was kind and then he got eaten. Like so that was the end of that. What did you think of William Dafoe before we finish off here? I just want to know directly.
Well, at least a little, a tad over the top, but at least he injected some life into it, the scenes he was in.
Yeah.
Um, like I found it hard that they would go to him for any advice, but the whole movie was so rushed. And the scene in the morgue, that scene where did his actions in that, like with the Monica looking at the body, it made me chuckle for some reason. So
Because he had
yeah,
that huge pipe.
sometimes he made me chuckle.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw him sometimes like I knew it was him and not the character. There's something very wrong. It just wasn't maybe they didn't have time to develop their characters. Um yeah. Just a complete disappointment. It's very sad. A waste of money, really.
So
I'm
how would you, as we wind towards the end here, how would you rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, I mean, I would give it a four. Like even we didn't talk about the music, but even the music made no sense. They started with music box music, which went nowhere, and then just weird music throughout. I mean, just I didn't even think the costumes were that great. A four, maybe even a three. Yeah, I'm having a hard. I don't want to be mean, but I wouldn't watch it. It's a waste of time. I only watched it because I knew we were talking, and I thought Cameron's gonna tell if I don't watch this whole thing.
Well, I normally watch movies we've reviewed so far. I've watched more than once.
Yeah,
This movie I don't want to watch again. So I would give it a 4 out of 10.
yeah.
I can't give it a pass or even, I won't be able to do that because it committed the greatest sin. It bored me. I was actually bored at one point. So it's a 4 out of 10 for me. Yeah, very disappointing considering all the hype around it. And Robert Eggers, hot director these days, supposed to be his passion project. But like I said, I don't know where that passion went in this movie. It just seemed perfunctory. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah, well, maybe our audience can chime in and let us know what they thought was missing from this movie or what could have made it better, or maybe if they enjoyed it, something that we overlooked.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, don't forget to give us a like and please leave a comment. We'd greatly appreciate that. And of course, feel free to subscribe. And Key, any ideas on what we should cover next? I have some ideas.
I think the last one we did was Gene Hackman's The Conversation, and that was my idea because I wanted to honor him. And I think this, and then we were. I think it's your turn to pick an older movie, but in my mind, because what's going on with the whole like Canada 51st state thing, I was thinking a lot about Strange Brew, which is a terribly campy, horrible Canadian movie we should talk about. But it's your turn to pick a movie next. Strange Brew is not a horror. We can do other genres too, so it's a comedy. But I was like, I wonder if we can find a Canadian movie to talk about. And I did want to tell you when Thomas was doing the deal with the Count, I thought this is a lot probably like what Mark Carney's going through when he's dealing with Trump.
Yeah.
So I guess I was bored pretty early on in the movie. Anyway,
Yeah,
what
if
were
you're making
what were
connections like that, yeah.
yeah, I even thought of Mark Carney. Could there any be another more boring man than that? But he was sexy compared to this. Anyway, um
Well, I was thinking another vampire film, Sinners, seems to be getting a lot of hype. You've heard about that probably. Maybe we can cover
no, I haven't.
Sinners.
No,
Yeah,
Sinners.
Sinners. Oh, really? You haven't?
No.
Well, you have to look that up. It's top of the box office. It's a vampire themed movie about Black American life in the South in the early 1900s, and it
Oh,
uses
I'm down.
vampirism. Sorry?
Oh, I'm down to see that. That sounds
Okay.
amazing.
Uses vampirism as a theme to discuss racism and colonialism and things like that. So maybe we'll do Sinners.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All
All right.
right.
So I guess that brings us to the end. Once again, please lightly tap that like button. Feel free to subscribe. Please leave a comment. And as always, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.